This is what 2022 looked like in Los Angeles. A single stretch of Union Pacific Main Line, covered in millions of dollars of opened, looted, and discarded cargo. The thieves had broken into containers as freight trains slowed at signals. They had taken what they wanted. They had left the rest scattered across the rails. News crews who arrived at the scene called it a war zone. Federal investigators called it the largest visible cargo theft incident in modern American history. Most Americans believe train robbery ended with the Wild West. This is the story of what it became. American freight trains in 2024 move more than 1.5 billion tons of cargo every year. The total declared value of that cargo exceeds $2 trillion, and a measurable, documented, and growing share of that cargo is being stolen. Industry estimates of annual rail and supply chain cargo theft in the United States now exceed $1 billion. The actual figure is almost certainly higher because much theft goes unreported. The thieves are not masked outlaws on horseback. They are organized criminal networks with logistics, fences, and resale infrastructure. They steal more often, and more profitably than Jesse James ever did. Train robbery is back. It never actually left, and it is bigger now than it has ever been. To understand why modern trains became targets, you have to understand what is on them. A modern intermodal train can be over 1.5 miles long and carry as many as 400 containers. Each container can hold up to 30,000 pounds of cargo. Most of the cargo originates at major Pacific ports: Los Angeles, Long Beach, Oakland, arriving from manufacturing centers in Asia. From the ports, it moves by rail to distribution hubs across the country. The cargo on those trains is the entire output of modern American consumer demand: electronics, pharmaceuticals, apparel, athletic shoes, auto parts, pet supplies, power tools, designer goods. A single container of consumer electronics can be worth over $500,000. A container of pharmaceuticals can exceed $1 million. A container of designer apparel and accessories can carry retail value over $2 million. Multiply those values across 400 containers, and a single intermodal train can carry cargo worth more than $100 million. And that train moves through hundreds of miles of unsecured rail right-of-way. It slows at junctions, it stops at signals, it crosses through urban areas where it is physically accessible from streets, neighborhoods, and industrial properties. The cargo is protected primarily by a metal seal on the container door. The seal can be cut with bolt cutters in seconds. The doors are not reinforced. The locking mechanisms were designed to prevent accidental opening, not deliberate theft. The trains have effectively no physical security against a determined thief. They are mobile warehouses moving through territory that no one is watching. And in early 2022, that lack of security finally became visible to the entire country because the thieves got greedy. The Union Pacific Main Line through East Los Angeles runs for several miles between the Port of Los Angeles and the major intermodal facility at the City of Industry. Trains on this line slow significantly at signals, junctions, and grade crossings as they navigate dense urban infrastructure. For years, organized theft crews had been targeting these slow-moving trains. They would board the trains, cut the container seals, take what they wanted, and drop off the train before it cleared the urban area. The thefts were happening continuously. Union Pacific had been reporting them. Local law enforcement had been pursuing them. The scale of the operation was already significant in 2021. What changed in early 2022 was visibility. The thieves had begun simply throwing the unwanted cargo off the trains as they sorted through containers. The result was a rail corridor that looked like the aftermath of a tornado in a shipping warehouse. Thousands of packages, tens of thousands of items, stretching for miles, every day, visible from streets and neighborhoods adjacent to the tracks. When a Los Angeles photojournalist named John Schreiber posted aerial footage of the debris field on social media in January 2022, the scale of the operation became impossible to ignore. The footage went viral within hours. Federal officials, Union Pacific executives, and California politicians arrived at the site within days. Initial estimates suggested that more than 100 containers were being broken into per day at the peak of the operation. The annual loss in stolen cargo alone exceeded $100 million. Arrests followed. But the people being arrested were almost entirely the lowest level of the operation. individuals physically boarding the trains. The organized infrastructure that fenced and resold the stolen goods remained largely untouched. Union Pacific spent millions of dollars on additional security, fencing, lighting, drones, increased policing. The visible debris was cleaned up, the tracks were cleared, the thefts decreased. They did not stop. They simply moved to less visible methods and less visible locations. The cargo theft industry that operates across American railroads is still active. The Los Angeles incident exposed it. The Los Angeles incident did not end it. Because Los Angeles is not unique, what happens in California happens everywhere. There is rail infrastructure. It is just less visible. Modern cargo theft is not a crime of opportunity. It is a logistics business. Organized criminal networks operate cargo theft as a coordinated supply chain. Crews physically take the goods. Fences buy them in bulk. Resellers move them through legitimate retail channels, flea markets, online marketplaces, and even some traditional retail outlets. A container of stolen athletic shoes or designer handbags can be moved through online resale platforms within days of the theft. The buyers, often unknowing, pay below retail prices for goods that arrived through criminal logistics they cannot trace. The methods are surprisingly simple. The most common technique is what police call train boarding. Crews access trains as they slow at urban grade crossings. They break container seals with bolt cutters. They take what they can carry or what they can throw to accomplices waiting along the tracks. A second technique targets stationary cargo, containers staged at intermodal yards waiting for transfer or pickup. Crews breach yard security at night, cut seals, and unload containers using their own vehicles. A third technique involves insider cooperation. Drivers, yard workers, or warehouse staff with legitimate access provide information about high-value containers, scheduling, and security weaknesses. The theft itself is performed by external crews acting on inside information. Federal investigations have repeatedly revealed organized networks operating across multiple states with hundreds of participants: drivers, fences, warehouse operators, and resellers. The networks have logistics that rival legitimate distribution companies. The theft hotspots correspond directly to major intermodal corridors: Los Angeles, Memphis, Chicago, Atlanta, Dallas. The cities that handle the most cargo also experience the most theft. Because the cargo concentrates there, industry estimates suggest that between 5,000 and 10,000 cargo theft incidents occur in the United States every year. The actual number is likely higher because many incidents are not reported. Railroads and shippers absorb the losses rather than disclose vulnerabilities. Modern cargo theft persists for the same fundamental reason train robbery persisted in 1875. The economics favor the criminals. Federal prosecution of cargo theft is rare. Most incidents are handled at the state or local level. Most cases never result in serious charges. The ones that do are typically against the lowest level participants. The people physically boarding the trains, the organizers and fences are almost never prosecuted. The penalties when convictions do occur are modest. Typical sentences for cargo theft involve county jail time and probation. The risk-to-reward ratio for organized theft remains favorable. Steal $1 million, get caught with a fraction of it. Serve a few months, resume operations. The railroads are responding with security investments. Union Pacific, BNSF, and the other Class 1 carriers have collectively spent hundreds of millions of dollars on additional fencing, lighting, drone surveillance, and rail police. Some corridors have become significantly harder to target. The Los Angeles Main Line, after the 2022 incident, now has substantially more visible security than it did before. But the cargo theft industry has responded the way criminal industries always respond. They moved to less protected corridors, smaller intermodal yards, less visible stretches of track. The thefts are occurring. They are simply harder to see. The fundamental problem is that the cargo itself is too valuable and the protection is too weak. A modern intermodal container is essentially a metal box with a pin lock. The contents can be worth more than a small-town bank vault. The bank vault has armed guards, hardened walls, and advanced security systems. The container has a wire seal that can be cut with hand tools until the cargo itself is better protected, which would require fundamental changes in how containers are constructed, sealed, and tracked. The thefts will continue. The numbers will keep growing. The losses will keep mounting. The Wild West train robber and the modern cargo thief are doing the same crime. Different cargo, different methods, different scale, but the fundamental act is identical. Stop or slow a train. Access the cargo. Take what is valuable, disappear. And the underlying conditions that enabled both eras are the same. Trains carry valuable cargo through territory that cannot be fully secured. Communications and law enforcement struggle to respond fast enough. The economics favor the thieves. The names of the agencies that respond have changed. The Pinkertons are gone. The FBI, Homeland Security Investigations, and Railroad Police have taken their place. The methods are different. The challenge is the same. The Wild West train robbery era ended because the conditions that enabled it changed. Telegraph and telephone networks tightened communications. Federal law enforcement filled the frontier. Trains became harder to access. The math stopped working for the criminals. The modern era has not seen those conditions change. American freight infrastructure is still vulnerable. Federal enforcement is still inconsistent. Cargo values are still climbing. The math still works for the criminals until something fundamental changes, either in the security of the cargo, the speed of enforcement, or the math of the theft economics. The thefts will continue. Trains will keep being targets. The legend of Jesse James and the reality of modern cargo theft will keep occupying the same space in American crime. Train robbery did not end. It was never going to end. The trains are too valuable. The geography is too large. The math is too favorable. The crime that built the legend of the American West is still operating today. The men who robbed trains in the 1870s became American folk heroes. The men who rob trains today operate in obscurity. The crime is the same. The romance is gone. If you have not watched Part 1, the story of Jesse James, Butch Cassidy, the Pinkertons, and the original train robbery era, that link is in the description. The two videos tell one story. The next time you sit at a grade crossing watching a freight train pass, remember what is on it. Remember who is watching it. And remember that the crime that built the American West is still happening. Somewhere along that train, right now. Subscribe so you do not miss the next one. There is more about American railroading than the textbooks ever told you.